Hi, I'm Thomas, and today I'll be taking a deep dive into Hideo Kojima's entrepreneurial qualities. Yes, that Hideo Kojima, one of the most praised amateur game developers of the century. He has multiple accolades tied to him, namely two Lifetime Achievement Awards from the MTV Game Awards, the Brazil Game Show, and a BAFTA Fellowship Award, the second Japanese game developer overall to receive it since Shigeru Miyamoto. Basically, he's pretty overall successful. He was the lead developer to multi-award winning games like Metal Gear and Death Stranding, and other games that were successful such as Policenauts, with an upcoming game called OD. Straight bangers there. Hideo Kojima joined Konami in 1986 basically as an MSX developer, as it was the only video game company listed on the Japanese stock exchange, and took development on Penguin Adventure. Hideo was unsatisfied with the game initially because as the MSX only had a 16 color palette, it was kind of restrictive. However, in 1987, Hideo was told to take over development and direct a new game, Metal Gear. In short, Metal Gear pioneered the early stealth genre. Soon after, he worked on Snatcher, made for PC and MSX2, and was a cyberpunk game in a semi-open world. Snatcher unfortunately never caught on in the Western market and only found success in Japan. But these are the games that began his career into stardom. Between 1990 and 2012, Kojima produced Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake, Policenauts, Metal Gear Solid 3 Sons of Liberty, and Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots, with co-development of Metal Gear Solid Revengeance with renowned RPG creator Platinum Games. In 2015, a final fifth game, Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain, released with speculation that Kojima would part ways with Konami, which unfortunately was true. Konami ultimately shut down the in-house Kojima Productions. However, Kojima survived and reformed Kojima Productions as an independent studio, partnering with Sony, which is now called PlayStation Studios. And his first independent game, Death Stranding, released in 2019 to rave critic reviews, with the second game, Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, releasing on 26th of June this year, with an upcoming game only known as OD in production. Some key skills and attributes to his success are cinematic storytelling. All his games have intricate storylines, usually deriving inspiration from film and literature. Kojima is a cinephile and has wild knowledge of movies, so it is no surprise that he uses it in his games. Kojima also did film before entering games in 1986, often making short films with his friends. Creative vision. Like many, Kojima has a very strong creative vision when it comes to taking risks, like creating new mechanics, and he often pushes multiple boundaries when it comes to creating games. Kojima entered many challenges. He revealed that Death Stranding 2 on the Beach almost did not make it into production because of a common problem, COVID-19. He says, Death Stranding 2 is quite special. We had the pandemic. Everyone experienced this. You weren't able to meet people face to face. I had the problem of not even meeting actors. I had all the cast decided, but during the pandemic, I thought I couldn't pull it off. Another major challenge was leaving Konami, forcing him to search for various publishers, ultimately making the decision to refound Kojima Productions. He also mentioned that he experienced health problems during COVID and crunch times for Death Stranding 2. What discovery skills does he possess? Networking. Kojima built Kojima Productions from the ground up, and out of those who worked on Death Stranding, 67 of them previously worked on Metal Gear games in Konami. Experimentation. In Metal Gear Solid 2, Kojima reinvented the fourth wall break. To defeat Psycho Mantis, who can read your memory card and tell you the saves on it, you must unplug the PS2 controller and then insert it into the second port. Another major experiment was the Game Boy Advance title Boktai, where the player had to utilize actual sunlight to defeat enemies. How could the game tell? A solar sensor in the game cartridge that Kojima had engineered. He described it as the most experimental game I've ever made. My future vision. I would like to be like Hideo Kojima, a lead director and designer in my own company. As a player, I want to create games I want to play. I've always wanted to create a World War II shooter or a Mafia game, as they haven't already been done to death apparently, and I want to make it how I want to. I love single player games, so those types of games would be ideal. However, if I do not manage to do that, working in a studio that prioritizes single player experiences, like Rockstar Games, who made Grand Theft Auto and the Red Dead Redemption series, and Hangar 13, previously known as 2K Sec, who worked on the Mafia games, the fourth coming later this year. I would like to work at those companies. My hard and soft skills. My current hard skills are game engines and art and design. These are critical for the game industry as you must know your way around game engines because you're supposed to build basically everything in there. And art and design is important because you need to know what your game needs to look like. My current soft skills are teamwork and creativity. Teamwork is obviously a big plus in the game industry and it's basically a requirement for the future if you need networking. Creativity is another obvious one because if you aren't creative, then why are we even here? If you aren't creative, you're trapped inside yourself. The skills and attributes I need and how I'm going to develop them. I need to be adaptable. Most of everything is not going to go your way, so you need to shape anything into anything you need to. The industry is ever changing and it changes fast. I also need to learn programming for different languages. Every engine uses a language such as Java, C Sharp, C++, or Python. Learning these languages is vital to building a game, so I probably need to get to it. Time management is also a must. I'm terrible when it comes to time management, so stretching things out rather than doing it at the last minute is needed for improvement. Finally, storytelling. I never claim to be the next Tolstoy or Orwell, but I think my storytelling is mediocre to say the least. People want an indulging story, so this is key to improve as well. It will take a high level of commitment, which means I'm going to have to work on this actively and consistently, which requires my full and focused attention while dedicating myself and probably my sanity to the end goal. By the time I enter the industry, I hope to have had worked on all of these things to the best of my ability and achieved a lot through it. Finn.